Hey, everybody, welcome to the Because Money podcast. I'm Jackson Middleton, joined by Rob Engen and Sandy Martin in black and white. And thanks for being here. If you want to join the conversation, you want to talk with us, if anything we're saying is of interest to you and you want to throw your voice or opinion in the circle there, in the ring here, as it were. Ooh, my phone's still on. Do that. Tweet us. Sandy just retweeted me, so we know that Twitter is working. I will be social moderating, and Rob's going to carry the conversation. Today is officially episode 6. What is it? Return of the Small Business Owner? Is that the way? Is that the right Star Wars reference, Sandy, with your
You
Darth
got it.
Vader helmet? Return of the Small Business Owner. Talking about small business finance. And Rob, off to you, bud.
Thanks, Jackson. This is the last Star Wars episode. Is that right, Sandy?
Yes, until Disney comes out with the newest ones.
Okay. Go J.J. Abrams. So yeah, we're talking about small businesses, and we were hoping to touch on it a little bit last week, but I think it's going to make an episode of on its own. And what got us into this was an article on, was it Hull Financial Planning?
Mhm.
And it was about bootstrapping your small business and how you shouldn't be doing this with a credit card, paying 18-20% interest on your small business, and why people do get into credit card debt trying to finance their small business. I think a lot of people, or he quoted in the article that 31% of small businesses fail, really early on, and so you imagine a lot of people can get into some trouble if they're financing this, supposedly what they think are good ideas on high interest credit, and they end up bleeding cash flow. And then they're left with a pile of debt. So we're talking about kind of all the mistakes you can make as a small business owner, and how to avoid some of those pitfalls. And thought I'd start with Sandy. You shared that article. What are some of the, well, let's start with the high interest debt or the credit card debt. Is it a good idea to finance your small business on?
Uh-oh.
Did I
Oh,
lose
I'm not
Sandy?
muted. There I am. Sorry. Well, I don't.
There we are.
The way that I approach small business planning is always how much money do you actually have, not including credit cards. And then that kind of restrains you in a way that I think small business isn't often restrained for some reason. That you have to actually use real finite money to make your plans. And then if your plans include, like, you need to purchase equipment, or I guess there are some situations where you should be looking to use leverage to finance your great idea or whatever. But I think one of the benefits of trying to use leverage is that you have to run your idea past somebody else. And then the drawback is all the somebody else's still want to lend you the money anyway. For some reason, it's not that hard to get small business financing. So the corollary is, to go back full circle, you shouldn't have to take it out on your credit card. If it's a really good idea, you shouldn't be using your credit card anyway to do it.
And what
So,
kind of interest loan would you be getting from a bank or
oh,
traditional lender?
yeah, they're pretty high. When you're first starting out, like within the first 2 years of your business, you probably won't see too much in the way of money except for a credit card or a line of credit that you secure to your own home, which typically isn't a great idea. Um, or you can get credit. You can get like a line of credit just in your own name. Almost everything. I mean, for most sole proprietors starting their own business, it's not like it's the business borrowing money anyway, right? It's, unless you're a corporation, it's going
Right.
to be your own name. So it's going to be higher interest because now you don't have a job. You're self-employed. You don't have 2 years of personal income that you can use to prove that you've earned income. So if you get something that's unsecured, it's going to be relatively high interest anyway, even if it's through a government program.
And the trouble is, you usually, depending on the business, obviously, but you usually need substantial capital early on. So financing that with a credit card that you need to start making payments on right away could get you in a lot of trouble right away. Is that right?
Well, it makes you desperate for business or clients or sales or whatever it is. And everybody should be hungry, obviously, for those things. But if you are, if kind of your first month you have to make enough to cover your enormous loan payment or your enormous credit card payment, then I don't think you're in a position to build your business in the healthiest way possible to target the people that you really want to target, whoever they may be,
Right.
I think that you're already 1 month in the cycle of got to get the next client, got to get the next sale. When you should be at that point, you should have built yourself. When we talk about emergency funds and personal finance all the time, you need to build yourself some capital before you run out and start your own business.
There's an online entrepreneur who wrote a guest post on my site a while ago, and he runs his own site called My Wife Quit Her Job, and basically his wife was a six-figure earner. I think they live in California, and she quit her job to start her own, like, an online store selling wedding linens and things like that. So kind of maybe a bizarre niche, but something they found maybe was really profitable that they could turn around. But I think they did a lot of research on it. And the post, I thought, made a lot of sense because he talked about, well, first of all, kind of getting started. Well, don't quit your job right away. Kind of do all your due diligence. Kind of get started, get your feet wet before you actually jump in with both feet. And to have that emergency savings, or saving at least a year's salary or something like that, so that you can get in there. And what he was arguing was there's a lot of entrepreneurs who preach the cut all ties with your employment and make yourself hungry for that business right away. I don't know, Jackson, what do you think about that approach where you kind of hold your feet to the fire?
Yeah, I've heard that. It's actually, that was in one of I think it was 33 Essential Strategies of Leadership or some crazy book that I was reading, and it's called the burn the ships strategy. So if you're an entrepreneur and you've just sailed across the ocean and you're looking to take over the land, business metaphor, the only way that you'll be committed is if you burn all your ships. And for me, that's kind of that's always resonated because I'm a burn the ships kind of guy. I don't know that was the best advice for me. This is this conversation is very close to me. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I mean, in grade 12, I took an entrepreneurship class. They brought in, it was like a joint project with a junior achiever guy from a bank, and I did a 60-page business plan on where to start a coffee shop. And this was in high school. I got 100% in the class and actually found some money. My mom and I started a coffee shop in Regina when I was 17. So here I am, a coffee shop owner at 17, and we made two big mistakes. We borrowed the money for the startup. We ended up securing $30,000 in loans, which had a payment on it that we had to start making right out of the gate. And we also, this is the other mistake we made. We signed a lease where the first year was a reduced lease payment, and then in the second year, our lease pretty much almost doubled, which we just kind of took that offset for the first year. A year's not enough to build a business, and I mean, our coffee shop, unfortunately, it failed. Market conditions. We had a movie theater across the street when we started, and that's why I thought this was a great location. And within 1 year, how about this? Within 1 year, we had maxed out our line of credit. The movie theater was torn down. They built a Robin's Donuts and Burger King across the street, and our lease doubled. That was just kind of like, wow. Welcome, as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid, welcome to the introduction to small business. But I learned a ton, and you think I would have learned from that and said, I get this, and yeah, I'm not gonna borrow money. But I, as an entrepreneur, I've always just assumed. It's only been in the last couple of years, and honestly, more recently, since I've started looking at starting a social media business, that I've said, I should really have the money in the bank for this. I don't want to borrow this, and if I don't have the skills and I need to pay somebody else to do stuff, I either need to develop the skills or have the money up front. I am no longer going into debt to build a business. And yeah, so I mean, when I read this bootstrapping your startup on credit card, I'm like, well, why not? And then you go through and it's like, yeah, well, it's never been easier to start a business. It's also never been easier to fail at a business.
The interesting part of your analogy about burn the ship is that I think the captains would do that so their crew didn't mutiny and sail home without him. And so at least you're doing it to yourself and not half your town. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But well, that's it's a good point you bring up about especially on the credit card and thinking, oh, why not? And is it a question of like either I want to, like Sandy had said, I want to get it started and I don't really want to have to answer to anyone or run it by anyone, so I'll just kind of go ahead and do it on my own? Or is it a question of like bad math, thinking I can grow my business at a faster rate than 19,
Rob,
20% credit card interest?
It's a matter of no math. I'm sorry, but your typical entrepreneur is a quick start, is somebody who's just going to go out of the gate, go, I've got an idea, I'm going to take over the world, I don't care about the administration, everything is a write-off, I don't want to pay taxes, and you just end up in this world where you believe that what you're doing, and questioning it, looking at the numbers, thinking things critically is an admission to failure. It's like saying, I don't believe in myself. And that's what I've been caught up in. There's no realistic thought with most entrepreneurs. They're not even close to being in reality. And I can say that very confidently because that is me. That is my default MO right now. If I go to start a business, all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, do I have any rich uncles that I can tap? Seriously, that's the way an entrepreneur thinks. We're like addicts.
Well, Sandy, how long did you ponder or consider starting up your own business, or was it a one day you were fed up and decided to start it?
Well, my own business, it took me 2 years because I'm not a risk taker. I don't like the idea of doing something like this on my own. No, it takes a lot of thinking through. But my husband had started his own business back in 2009, and that was, we talked about it a little bit, but that was like he came home one day and I told him, today's the day you're starting your business, and we went on from there. I think it was helpful, obviously, that I was working in banking. Bye, Rob. It was helpful that I was working in banking at the time because I already had a lot of the understanding of what was happening with banking, or with the small business side, and I had seen a lot of people, in my area, it's people starting construction companies, and that's what my husband started. And I see them come in, and I was witnessing their account implosions firsthand, so I kind of was already a little bit leery of that side of things anyway. But no, for this business, it was 2 years of waiting because I wanted to be able to not be desperate. So right. I think that it went well so far.
I'm currently launching a social media business in January of 2014, and I've been thinking about doing it for 2 years. This is the first time I've ever actually waited on something, and the truth is, I didn't have the money to pay somebody for a website. So I got frustrated, I got mad, and I said, I'm going to learn how to build a website. So I spent 3 weeks trying to learn how to code and kind of figured out WordPress a little bit. But, I mean, it was really hard. The standard default is just borrow. Now, if we go to Twitter, Noel is jumping in, and he goes, from a psych perspective, does having a high-interest debt make you hungrier for business, behavioral versus optimization? And he says, sometimes I wonder if being a little naive and reckless is a requirement for being an entrepreneur. Don't know that it's a requirement, but it's certainly a common personality trait.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Well, I was just going to say, I think maybe the field is divided. Half the entrepreneurs are let's hold your feet to the fire and jump in right away and be reckless, and the others are contemplating it for years, and maybe that's why some businesses don't get started, is because you wait too long. So I think you do need a little bit of that ability to assess the risk, but to be able to actually jump in and do it. But there's also a lot of businesses that don't require a ton. They're more time intensive than require a lot of capital up front. And I have a small business which is basically our online business, our blog, and we basically started it for $100. You pay the cost of hosting and a website theme or whatever, and you could do it for $100. And then we probably didn't even spend any money upgrading certain things until we'd been doing it for a year. So, we really took our time with it, but it did take that initial leap of faith to even hit publish on the first article, and which is scary in itself. So I guess you do need to, most entrepreneurs maybe do need that bit of reckless, crazy side.
I think so, and I think it's I think it's very easy to be the analyzer and the non-risk taker, and then never grow or never see opportunities. Like, I think you need to have either somebody in your ear that's saying, "Oh, you should totally pay for somebody to build a new website for you because yours is ugly and looks free." Because even though you don't do it right away, yours meaning mine. I'm not trying to insult you. Oh, it's feeding the goats all over again. But, I mean, I need people in my ear to tell me that, because I am very clearly the opposite side of the spectrum from Jackson. I don't take risks, and I don't move into new territory unless somebody pushes me into that new territory. So
I find it funny that the word serial is applied to entrepreneur. A serial entrepreneur, kind of like it's a badge of honor. I'm a serial employee. Nobody says that, but it's kind of like implying that as an entrepreneur, yeah, you have to have that recklessness. You kind of have to have that expectation of failure. And, honestly, yeah, I wear it kind of as a badge of honor, although it's kind of one of those things that you just go, not sure. But I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm actually working for the first full year. This last year, 2013, was the first year I've ever had a boss and had a salary. I've always made my own way, from coffee shop to record label to, delivery business, property development, mortgage brokerage. I've always just done small business. And honestly, and this is, I think, where the conversation is going, is your books. Your books are one of the most important things you have in your small business, and I believe that has been my biggest failure, is because my personal spending and my business spending is kind of like, I'll just take from the business. And then you just start using the business credit card for personal purchases, and then your accountant goes, "What are you doing?" And it's like, what? It's all the same money. And then you start writing things off, and the thing is what do? You start working harder and longer because you have to make more money, because you don't have any money at the end of the day, because you just continue to spiral. So you end up working 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, to just live the lifestyle that you want to live, basically just trying to keep up with your debt for your business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I got an accountant to start kind of when we started up our small business, just to walk us through how things were going. And then he said, well, the most tax, it's to your advantage to leave your money in the business, because I'm talking about, okay, am I going to, take out, how do you withdraw the cash? Do you do it through dividends or whatever, right? And he says, well, it's actually the most tax advantage for you is to leave the money in the business, and it gets taxed at whatever. I said, well, what fun is that? So I think a lot of people have that mindset, right? Where, okay, well, I have money in a business account, and how do I get at it? And so how should you be dividing those lines, Sandy?
Well, at the beginning, it's hard to divide those lines, because sometimes there's no money to divide between personal and business. Like, some people are starting their business because they need to pay the mortgage, right? So in that instance, and that's why, now I'll not get into corporate and sole proprietor. Anyways, that once you are established, or once you're at a point where you can kind of count on the type of income that's coming in, I hate to go back to budgeting and like push that button, but you need to have a very good sense of the smallest amount of money that you can take out of that business and try and live on that. And then leave money in the business until you kind of reach the next milestone, But business money, I find that it's always sort of this made up unicorn money where it's like, well, whatever. And Jackson, it's not just you. I'm telling my husband.
Money.
It's unicorn money.
Because unicorn money. That's what I'm talking about.
Or it's a write-off. You mentioned that.
No, you're not alone.
It's not. Yeah, and I found. It's a temptation myself. Like, I should probably buy a new printer for the business, but it doesn't need a printer. I don't print anything. It's all online.
I'm just going to hang my head in shame. I actually went and restarted my internet connection downstairs, and the only thing that my $2,000 printer does is hold my modem. That's it. It does. It ran out of ink, and
$2,000 printer. Wow.
I got a $2,000 printer because I mean, hey, it's only monthly payments for the next 18 years at $100 a month. So I financed that puppy like years ago. No idea what it. The print cartridge is $400, but man, that puppy was a write-off. I don't worry about it. It's a write-off. It's a lease payment, so that's even a better write-off. Oh, so frustrating. But hey, that's paid off in April of this year, and then I can sell that on eBay for like $100.
There you go.
I'm done ranting.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people blur the lines between their obviously between their personal and small business. It's not just you, Jackson. You know, and I think kind of Sandy alluded to that. It's because, you know, especially right off the get-go, there is no, you know, a big pot in one, unicorn money in one, and then your personal finances or whatever in the other. You need that money. You're starting it maybe out of necessity, or you've got some bigger plans to you know, use that money, and so of course you think it's yours right away and go after it. So one of the things that kind of snuck up on me was the taxes too, right? So we went through a full year of taxes, so I owed taxes afterwards after the first year, and then they want you to pay the installments afterwards, right? Now you estimate it, you do your quarterly installments. So I think a lot of people run into trouble there, where now you're actually budgeting your taxes because the government wants it ahead of time.
That was the craziest thing I ever had to experience. That was just kind of like, and now we're, it was like, we need $8,000 a quarter. What? Why? I've never paid that before. And then you start phoning them up and you telling them they're wrong. And it's like, no, we're the government. We're not wrong. Yeah, that's a whole different planning. Let's just talk a bit about maybe planning and those kind of things, because I'm done talking.
Planning. Well, you know what? Actually, one of the things that I always used to do. This goes back to banking now. Sorry.
About your budget.
I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, like, on the budgeting side of things, it's you know, it kind of goes back to knowing your line items, right? And especially after a year, I knew I paid X in taxes, and so now they want that in quarterly installments. So I actually kind of knew I have a spreadsheet or whatever course I do for a year, and kind of I can project out, you know, what the expenses are going to be, and I just kind of, you know, I know I was going to either have a big tax bill at the end of the year, or I could do it in quarterly installments. So now it's kind of better on a go forward, but certainly not a surprise, but kind of catches you off guard a bit for that first year.
That's what you need that extra tax account for. That one where you have your operating, so you go out, you register your business, or you incorporate or whatever, and you open up your corporate bank account or your small business bank account, but you also need to open up the savings account too underneath that. However you do it, whether it's free or not, if we want to talk about bank fees. But you need to have that other account where it's that money is going. I mean, I'm shaving whatever you think your rate is going to be. I used to put 20% in. So you put 20% in, I've got it in there, and then at the end of the year when you've been an employee or a lifer, if you want to call it that, and then you get a refund at the end of the year, and you think everything is wonderful, and I have a refund. I'm just kind of setting aside a refund for myself. If I don't need to pay that much, that's fine. And obviously then people would look at it and say I'm eating into the amount of capital that I have to expand the business if I overestimate, right? But
right.
To me, it's the only way that I can think of to make sure I've got money set aside and don't magically think of it as unicorn money.
And I'll be honest, from the mortgage broker side, from my spending 7 years as a mortgage broker and dealing with I would say easily 30 to 40 clients who are business for self doing refinances to pay their taxes. Now, unfortunately, you actually have to prove that you have no taxes owing to CRA as a business for self individual, but countless times you just know that the money has been borrowed on a line of credit, or the money has been borrowed from a family member to pay off CRA, and the refinance is being executed to pay off taxes. So I know that I'm not alone in this, but it certainly you kind of got to wonder if a lot of businesses do fail just because of lack of poor financial management. And I know that I've failed in business because of it.
Now, you talked about the traits of an entrepreneur and how, you said yourself you're, the type A, and when you were out as a mortgage broker, you'd rather be, out with a client, talking, or, making that relationship and solidifying business rather than going back and writing up the paperwork. And it kind of goes back to maybe the traits of an entrepreneur don't really fit too well with sitting back and doing your books properly, and so maybe that speaks to you need to hire some help to manage your books.
I don't know an entrepreneur that gets all excited about doing their paperwork. I'm going to go reconcile receipts. It's going to be a blast. Nobody says that. Nobody, well, no. Okay, I mean, tidy fiscal year ends. Welcome to Sandy Martin.
It's a good thing I didn't go into construction.
That's awesome.
Do you know, I think this goes back to what we talk about personal finance all the time. It's not because people are stupid. I mean, if you are starting a business, it's not because you're a dummy. And so the fact that you're passionate about, I don't know, mortgages. Oh, that's kind of related to money. So we can maybe give mortgages a pass. But let's say you want to fix cars. Let's go back to the car metaphor. You want to fix cars because you like cars and you think you can build a business fixing cars or whatever. You probably aren't also interested in learning how to use QuickBooks or, poring over the latest tax tables or whatever. So I think that's almost a given. But the problem is, if let's say that somebody's being wise and trying to use only the capital that they have saved up, paying an accountant and then putting your money at one further step removed from you probably doesn't feel like it's that important of an expenditure compared to whatever the next toolbox that you need to buy. So it's not unheard of. It makes perfect sense. It's just something that people need to get over.
Yeah, and maybe instead of I hear of a lot of people investing in printers and business cards and like right off the bat stuff that they're probably not going to need right away, but maybe they could set aside some money for that professional help in the form of a bookkeeper or I was going to say time to learn QuickBooks, but that's probably not going to happen. So it's to secure the services of someone to do your taxes and to keep up with your books.
Yeah. I always think that list of things that you have to have to start a business, I always liken it to the things you have to have if you're a first-time parent. People tell you, oh, you have to have one of those. Well, what do you mean you're not buying a baby sling or whatever it is, the thing that somebody else thinks you have to have?
A bumbo chair.
One of those, a bumbo chair.
Yes.
And the list, and frankly, like I actually applied and went through part of the Ontario Self-Employment Benefit Program, which is something that I don't think a lot of people know about. All the provinces have something similar if you have been on employment insurance. I had been on maternity leave for a while. Anyways, beside the point. But one of the things that they talk you through is you have to write a business plan. I didn't get too far into the program. You have to write a business plan because the next thing you're going to do is carry that business plan to the enterprise business lending center or to the bank or whatever. And then they list all the things that you need to have. Like when you have to chart out your expenses in your business plan, that kind of the finance part that everybody hates to do, and you project your expenses and your income. There's things in that list that not every single business needs. And you talked about business cards. Like the first thing that people do, it's exciting, I know, but the first thing people do is go out and print a business. I printed business cards. I have handed out 0 to actual real people because all of my business is online. Not everybody's just going to be that way, but you need to take those lists of things with a whole shaker of salt.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, business cards for Boomer and Echo just doesn't make a lot of sense for me, right? Like you can find us online, and if you know of us at all, you found us online. So you can. It's pretty easy to get a hold of me because I'm on every social network, right, Sandy?
That's right. Some that I've never heard of.
Well, I'm throwing Noel. Noel's giving us gold here on the Twitter. I'm going back to him, and he says, and I agree with him 100% here. There's a reason why, as a business grows, specialized roles emerge: CFO, CTO, sales, marketing, and etc. And that's exactly it. And I think the strength of any good business is in its people. And unfortunately, the solopreneur kind of tries to take on everything. And if we're getting down to the nitty gritty, that's exactly where I got. I had my mortgage business from 2007 to 2010. 2010, I started Highland Mortgage Partners, and I grew it to the point where I just couldn't handle everything. I was trying to, and I burnt out. I sold my business simply because I knew I couldn't manage the entire business anymore. I was not spending enough quality time with my clients that I needed to keep up the same level of service I expected from myself. So by selling my business to First Foundation allowed me to specialize and be, in real estate, we've got what's called the highest and best use of a property. So like a residential property, the highest and best use would be a home for a family. Commercial, it could be the highest and best use would be a restaurant or whatever. I like to look at it as a personal highest and best use, and the highest and best use of my time is blogging, marketing, social media, engaging with people, explaining the process. That's what I love to do. So that's the role that I moved into. So I'm now using all of my skills focused on exactly what I want. So Noel nailed it, and that's the strength of a good business is the people and diversifying roles and allowing people to excel where they're at.
Well, and if you think about a business like a mom and pop kind of retail store, and you think, well, I can't afford to hire someone to work the till or whatever for me, so I'm going to do it because that makes the most sense, right? And so you end up spending more time in your business than you do on your business, and so that you don't have that chance to do that long-term planning and work on the stuff that those big ideas you had there in the first place, rather than getting caught in the nitty-gritty kind of day-to-day stuff that you could outsource. And one thing that I just online, there's not a ton of stuff that I don't know how to do any of the like coding and anything like that, right? I know how to write and I know how to market and promote. And so having to outsource when I break my website, having to outsource that, you have to do it, right? I'm just going to mess it up even more if I try to fix it myself. And I found a couple of cool online tools. One was called Fiverr, where there's people online everywhere who you basically you pay, or they'll advertise that they'll do a gig for you, and that gig could be, I'll sing you happy birthday in German, or I'll make a fillable PDF form for you, or whatever, or I'll do your logo graphic design, and they're called gigs, and you pay, so for $5, or this will cost you 4 gigs, so $20, and I'll do this thing for you. So people are making money doing this, but you can outsource stuff for cheap, and it's really good work because there's like an online community rating everyone. I don't know, have anyone of you guys used something like that before?
I've used Fiverr only as a joke to actually
send somebody happy birthday.
We ended up, wow, long story, but a mortgage broker ended up leaving the broker industry and setting up a gig on Fiverr where he would endorse your business. So we went around to other mortgage brokers and gave them 5-star reviews, and it was just awesome. This guy gave like the lengthy review, and he was totally serious about it. That's the only time I've used Fiverr, but I use Elance all the time.
Yeah.
And Elance is just, it's the same kind of thing. Freelancer, Elance. Yeah, they're great services. I've had lots of logos designed, graphic work. I've had transcripts. So, potentially if we ever get a sponsor on the Because Money podcast, anybody who wants to sponsor us, just let us know. Hint, hint. We could throw up like some ads or whatever. But no, if we ever got a sponsor, then we could probably transcribe this. Oh, look at those. A tangerine. What have you got there? ING Direct? No. But yeah.
Well, there goes that sponsor.
Yeah, wow. Although I like Peter Rosito. He's a solid cat. But he's not at ING. What are they, Tangerine? No. But anyways.
Not yet, but they will be, yep.
We did, I got transcripts done of some of our Canadian mortgage hangouts that we do. And that was done through Elance, and that worked really well. So
I'd like to see a transcript of this.
They're actually pretty good, and they do it pretty quickly. So it's just bouncing around getting the right voices, I guess.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the point is that, like you said, you can't specialize in everything. That's why you do have specialized roles. And I know, just starting up, or you say bootstrapping your small business, you think you have to do it all, and maybe you do for a period of time, but you have to know when you need to let go and where you're best, where you can focus your energy on. That's going to give you the highest return, so you can pay off that 20% credit card.
So this is something that came up actually, and I think in our Canadian personal finance community, about outsourcing parts of your life. It was really about people outsourcing parenting and housekeeping and all that kind of stuff. And the idea was, this goes back to Noelle reminding us about kind of behavioral or kind of optimizer. I guess if you know that you can use that time more profitably, directly working on client stuff, or expanding your marketing or whatever it is, then the 3 hours that I'm going to spend, well, it's not 3 hours, coming up with goofy graphics, probably I could get somebody else to do goofy graphics for $5 and then bill that time to an actual client. But it's so much fun. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, a lot of the stuff I like doing, like you said, making up the goofy graphic posters. If you like doing that stuff, it's hard to get away and give that up, right? That's hard. Like in my day job, it's hard to give up some of the stuff that I do that I could certainly, pass on to a colleague, or I don't need to be doing that task, but I enjoy it, so I spend my time doing there. Is it wise? Maybe not. You could spend a lot more time doing planning, or actually growing your business.
I wonder if the hallmark of a successful entrepreneur, obviously part of it is luck and market conditions, etc., but if the startup and go person can morph into the startup and go, and now I'm going to tap the next person that's going to take whatever the delegation becomes. Now, I'm going to hire a professional bookkeeper or whatever. If someone who has to navigate not spending too much money on silly things, but spending money on hiring the right people to do the right jobs. I wonder if that's kind of the differentiation. Oh, that's the wrong word. I wonder if that's going to be the hallmark of somebody that's eventually successful.
And that's interesting, because maybe you can take that first 3 months or 6 months of getting your hands dirty and getting in there and actually figuring out what your business is all about, and then make some templates for the next person to come on to actually do those things to your standards, and to make you not feel like you need to micromanage and be looking over their shoulder, so that you can move on to bigger and better things.
Well, and I think if I could jump in, the difference that I've found in the business, and I've always been really good at creating myself a job. I don't know that I've actually ever really created a business, and there's a huge difference there. A lot of people who are entrepreneurs, they work themselves into a job, and I found that in my mortgage business. Look, and I loved it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying, when I was servicing my clients and I was doing mortgages and I was out, I was hunting, I was eating what I was killing, it was great. I'm being the entrepreneur, I'm the type A, I'm going out, I'm getting business. The second I stopped going out and getting business is the second I no longer have a paycheck. So you really got to ask yourself, am I growing a business, or am I working a job on my own? And I can't go on holidays. I got nobody to look after my book. I don't want somebody else eating my lunch. There was 4 years that I never took a day off. Like, I just worked and worked and worked, and it's just unsustainable. And that's the problem. So when you're looking at your business and you're planning your business, you have to have a business that can make money without you. Now, am I saying that has to be immediately? No, you have to work, you have to learn how to do the process, but you have to be investing in a system or a way to make money and be able to remove yourself. Even if it's very slowly and gradual, you have to have the plan, you have to have a business that can scale. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get caught in that, I'm making all this money, I'm doing all this thing myself. It's the hit by a bus factor. You get hit by a bus, if your business is dead, you don't have a business, you have a job. And I've worked a lot of jobs for myself.
Well, and that's the entrepreneurial dream that gets sold is the, oh, you got to escape the rat race and get out of the cubicle and work for yourself. Okay, I'll do that, but wait a minute. Now I'm, like you said, I haven't been on vacation in 4 years, and
Yeah.
I'm actually happier doing this just because I'm, working for myself.
Mm-hmm. We're working. No, I don't have anything else.
I know we're almost out of time here. Can we touch on this charity thing for a minute? I found a couple articles here and thought it was interesting that Canadians are real Scrooges compared to a lot of countries, but I think it was like 1.7% of our income we're donating to charity, and in the U.S. it's upwards of 3.5. What do you guys see? Like, for me, I get a lot of donor fatigue. Like, I work at a university and we get asked to do a lot of, we do a lot of fundraising, and so I contribute to this one and this one and this one, and it all adds up. And then you go to the grocery store and they're asking for $2 here and there every time you go in, and does all that stuff even get counted at the end of the year? I'm not sure in that 1.5%. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Obviously I'm a regular person, so I like to have it as one of my bills. And then if I happen to have change, which is pretty rarely, then anybody that's around, that's fine. I'll spread my currency largesse to the populace. But I like to have it in as a line item in my budget, because otherwise I don't think it would happen. It would be like, well, maybe if I have extra later on, and then I would never do it. So that's
is there something specific that you would contribute to? Like, is it something, close to home, or is it, depends on who asks?
I have, we have a family member, and then somebody that I grew up with that are both out in the field doing various mission work that we support. So, and then other than that, no, there used to be something else in there, and I can't remember what it is, but no, right now it's just 2 families.
What about you, Jackson?
Yeah, my wife and I were advocates for Compassion Canada for a little while. We're no longer advocates, but we still believe in the Compassion Canada program. It's very much like World Vision. They do work through local churches in developing nations. We have 5 sponsored children down in Peru, and we use that as an opportunity for our kids to realize just how blessed we are in Canada, and we write letters to them, we send them gifts, we really make that part of our family and part of what we do charitably. I've got a policy. I invest in people. I don't like, I will say yes to any charity that involves people. I will say no very angrily to any charity that involves animals. I do not like animals, and it's not that I don't like animals. I just don't think that we should be spending money investing in animals when we have people that aren't eating and people living in poverty. So yes, it's really weird to hear the right-wing guy talking about social issues.
Social programs.
Yeah, social programs and issues. But no, I love investing in people. I've done some Kiva loans in the past, and the small business loans there. I got a policy that if somebody comes to my door knocking on asking for MS, asking for cancer research, great. Yes, I've done Movember. Yeah, $20. Here you go. That's a no problem. If it's in the grocery store, yes, I'll say yes. If it's for the Humane Society, no, I won't. And I'll let the person know I think there's enough charities out there for people that's where I'll be directing my money. Thank you. So I'm kind of ignorant, but I do believe in charitable giving, and we do give quite a bit because we are blessed in Canada. I've spent some time doing some mission work down in Argentina. I've been over in Europe, and what we have here is just head and shoulders above where a lot of other developing nations are at. So that's it's a passion of mine.
I have a thought on why Americans give more to charity, or double what Canadians give, and I think Americans are such great marketers, and I think that I saw a good TED talk on this, and it basically was how the Money Sense magazine, it rates all the charities and looks at how much is going to administration and marketing and salaries and that sort of thing, and they're saying, well, you should give to the charities that have lower overhead and more goes into research. Well, this guy was basically arguing the opposite. Hire the best to run our charities who can raise the most. And look at it as the actual dollar amount. Maybe 50% is going to admin and marketing, but they increase their what they're giving by 100% or more. And so that's what this guy was arguing. And they'd take out ads in the New York Times to advertise for this race, and they'd raise like $100 million or something like that. And so he was basically arguing that or he was arguing that you could spend more money on that type of thing, and instead of paying your CEO $40,000, you pay him $100,000, but attract the best and brightest to run it. Jackson's getting squirmy over there, so
no, it's
here.
I can't handle the people will make a buck off of anything, and I really have a hard time with the reason I like Compassion Canada is because they really hold up the they actually dress the kids up for the pictures. They don't make the poverty the issue. They make the kids the issue, and I really like the World Vision. The kind of and it's not. World Vision does great work, but the whole you got the kid with the big stomach and the flies everywhere, and they just want to make it look like squalor. And yes, although that exists, give the kids some dignity. And for me, the whole exploitation in that charity industry and the making money off of charity, you get more, but I don't know. Do you want people given to your charity because it was a big page ad in the New York Times? Yeah, okay, if you're getting more, sure. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But jumping onto Twitter, the Holy Potato jumped into the conversation. Apparently he's been watching. I haven't looked into the charity differences, but keep in mind U.S. has a much bigger need for health charity because, of course, they don't have... they got some differences in the healthcare. And then he goes, that is no socialized medicine, so lots of fundraising to help families that don't have adequate insurance. It's a point well taken. And Noel, who is a beast, by the way, says, I love Kiva and microfinance loans to hardworking entrepreneurs in developing countries. 164 loans and counting.
Ooh.
Well done. And then the Holy Potato jumps in and says UK also gives less than 1%. So we're a little bit more distinguished than our European brothers.
See, but that goes back to Rob's point. Like, I wonder how much of that is actually counted. No, sorry.
No, it's true. And then what Holy Potato said about the health organizations, but it also I think on the church side too, there probably is a lot more giving. Down in the U.S. than there is up here, and I'm not sure how that's counted as well. Well, are we out of time?
I think we are.
I think we're out of time. Sandy, do you realize that you've got Darth Vader right behind you?
What?
And how creepy that is?
I know, it's totally creepy. You know what's creepier? I had to sneak into my sleeping baby's room to get it because I forgot him.
And then you hit that.
That's hovering over your sleeping baby.
Yeah.
I know, totally.
Well, there we go. So we're going to take the Christmas off. When are we coming back? Has anyone looked at a calendar?
January 6th. January 8th.
2 weeks off?
January 8th, we will be back. So
yep.
I guess that's it.
I hope when we come
Merry Christmas,
back.
Everyone.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Sandy, you were going to say you hope when we come back what?
I hope when we come back we get to talk about weddings and how we judge people. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Judgy McJudgerson.
Awesome.
That'll be fun.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye.